Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood. We have a very special Skype interview for those of you who don't know. If you go to my patreon.com/Graham Elwood, the link is in the show notes. At the $25 level, you get to do a Skype interview, and you can bring up whatever subject you want to bring up. I'm here with Jeff Epstein from Citizens Media TV, and you came to me through a super chat about wanting to really get into MMT, or modern monetary theory. Is that what that stands for?
Yes, I call it modern money, but yes, you're correct.
Okay, so this is a very unique opportunity, you guys, because I don't know much about MMT. I would say I know almost nothing about it. So Jeff is going to educate me, and I'm going to ask a bunch of questions, and hopefully you, the viewer, if you're as uninformed as I am, hopefully this will help you. So first of all, Jeff, why don't we just at least talk about how awesome it was that all these progressive candidates won last night?
What a day to be a progressive. I mean, what a day. I mean, I'll forget the Supreme Court union crap for a few minutes, but yeah. The one thing that I don't even know what to say about it. It's just so exciting. It's the most important day as a progressive, I think, since I've been alive.
I think it's like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez winning is so significant for many, many reasons. She was endorsed and basically ran as a democratic socialist. That right there is huge. She went up against one of the most entrenched corporate Democrats out there, who ducked her on. He didn't want to debate her when he did, she ate his lunch, man.
She destroyed him. Yeah.
And what that debate shows, and what this election shows, is you can't fight the progressive platform. The only tactic they have, and it was hard to do it because she is a Latino woman, right? That's what they did with Bernie. Hillary couldn't attack Bernie's platform. She had to say he was sexist because he said, wait your turn, because she was interrupting him. She had to say his things were pie in the sky. They were ponies, But when you get someone who is not backing down like her, she's like, I want to shut ICE down. And I serve the people where I grew up in the Bronx. Like that's.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't even speak. And in the debate, she said that he doesn't even speak Spanish, even though his district is 40% Spanish speaking, and he doesn't even live in the district. His family lives in Virginia. And then he said, I do the best I can as a father, as if that makes it, you can't touch that issue. Yeah.
You do as best you can as a father, meaning you'd rather live in some rich DC suburb than in the Bronx.
Right. And actually, one thing that nobody has said, and that I actually find the most amazing of all, is that she won despite you have to register as a Democrat 9 months before the election. I think it's 9 months. And she still won. So that means that she got a lot of people to register, or she changed a lot of minds. And either one of those is really remarkable.
The great thing,
she still won because of that.
It's so great because New York has one of the most corrupt, outdated political systems in the country, right? And when people say, oh, the system's broken, and it is, but the fact that she won in that broken, corrupt system, it's like, everybody buckle up and get involved because you can do it. Now, she was tenacious, man. She didn't back down.
She's incredible. And she knows modern money, which makes it even sweeter.
Well, nice segue, my friend. First of all, tell us what got you involved with Citizens Media TV? What is it? And then what brought you to understand and then become an advocate for modern money theory?
Sure. Okay. So first of all, I became a fan of you when I saw you on Jimmy Dore live show a while ago, and you gave a rant about being foreclosed on twice. That was amazing. That was amazing. And I just want to thank you for doing this, just being so open-minded, and especially with as many people as you reach, that teaching you is really teaching everyone you reach. And that's amazing. So thank you for allowing me to do this.
My pleasure, brother. My pleasure. It was, you got to give some credit to Jimmy Dore, because I did not want to talk about that foreclosure. It was really emotionally painful. And he said, dude, you need to, it's important. And he would push me to talk about it. And when I did, I would get so many people coming up and telling. Some people said, "Oh yeah, my mom lost her house, or we lost our house, and that sucks, and I'm sorry." And so, thanks for bringing.
It's righteous anger, and that's why I like Jimmy Dore so much. It's
Yeah.
righteous anger. Okay, so I before Bernie Sanders, I slept pretty much my life away, roughly speaking. And I voted Democrat, and then I went back to sleep.
Mhm.
And I voted Democrat because I was told that the Democrats were the good guys and that the Republicans were the bad guys. That's it. And then I discovered Bernie Sanders in August of 2015. I never heard of him before. I left my high-paying job in February 2016, and I worked for him full-time. And the campaign asked me to run with him on the ballot. I ran with him on the ballot in my county in New Jersey, and I lost, but I got 12,000 votes. And then I was a delegate for him at the DNC. And at the DNC, it was just a whole bunch of suffering. We weren't there to make a difference. And so I decided that I was going to make something of it. And what I decided to do was to live stream an average of 8 hours every single day. And it was a 7-day experience, or Sunday through or Saturday through Thursday. So I live streamed an average of 8 hours a day. And I showed the world what it was like to be a Bernie Sanders delegate and how badly we were treated and how nothing we were. And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. And that was the first major thing. Me and a handful of other delegates and some other people on the outside across the street, we all live streamed, and we reached well over 1 million people. It was a really amazing thing. And I have to thank Adrian Ashley, who definitely helped make that possible. So that became Citizens Media TV. That was the first big thing for Citizens Media TV. So we're just a big, hard left progressive media organization, and we're on Facebook and Twitter. And I did do investigative journalism for a year, but I make a tiny bit of money by live streaming public meetings. But otherwise, we just share, just progressive stuff. But the last thing I wanted to say is that I just entered. I just won my first elected position.
Oh.
I did a write-in campaign. I canvassed a few houses the day before. I got 6 votes. Nobody else got any votes, and I am now a Democratic county committeeman.
Oh, nice.
So,
good
yeah,
for you. Awesome.
I can't imagine what's going to happen because they know who I am and what I'm about. But so that's about me.
Nice. All right. So then, when did you first learn about modern money theory, and how did that get us into the history of what brought you to this?
It's actually not that long. I tend to deep dive into things. I really don't like touching on lots of subjects a little bit. I like picking a subject and diving as deep as I can. And I found, Bernie Sanders. I left and I worked for him full time. I found about modern money. I like to call it modern money because the word theory just gets people in a tizzy, but it's no different than the theory of relativity. So modern money, in February, I was talking about with a friend. His name is Jeff Ginter. He's a prominent video guy on Real Progressives, which I'm now part of. He's an amazing guy. He lives near me. And we were talking on the phone about some progressive thing. And then he says, you really got to understand how money works. And I never, not that I didn't care about it. It just was never in my consciousness of what's that? It means nothing to me. And so he spoke to me on the phone.
Which, by the way, I would say has got to be by design, that we're all just sort of, none of this is taught in schools. We're all just taught this very basic, banks have the money and they loan it, and then we have a job and we buy things.
You're not smart enough to even discuss this subject. Yeah, and even economists are learning on outdated textbooks, which we'll talk about later. So Jeff took me by the hand, and we jumped off a cliff, and he deep dived me into MMT, into modern money. And it completely changed me. Just like exactly the same profoundness as what Bernie Sanders taught us, which is money in politics is the root of all evil. And he really showed us how and why that's true. MMT, modern money, shows us why we can actually get all the things that we all progressives preach about. And it shows us that we're actually really messing up how we preach about it, and we're sabotaging ourselves. So in February, I did a deep dive, and now my life completely changed. And now a big part of my life is teaching modern money to other people. And so that's why I'm here.
Okay, so let's get into it. What is it?
All right. So
And
there's
talk
two
to me
state.
like I'm 6 years old, because I'm not. I was a film major. I did not have an economics degree or anything like that. So
You, yeah, and that's the trick. You are completely capable of handling this.
okay,
The hardest part, the mind benders, is that we have to discard all of the misinformation that we've been taught our whole lives
okay,
and then relearn the basics of modern money. So it is a mind bender. It's a serious mind bender, which is why this is going to take a little while.
okay.
But it is a mind bender because we have been miseducated our entire lives,
Got it.
not because it's a difficult concept.
Got it.
It's
Okay.
so conflicting. It's so conflicting. Okay.
So we've all been
So,
told the world is flat, and then some guy gets on a boat and is telling us the world is round, and we're all going to fight. People have a hard time understanding it.
right. So you have to discard what you know
Okay.
that's wrong and before you can start understanding what, is right.
Okay.
So there's two stages of learning. One is getting through those mind benders. Then two is once you're through those mind benders, then you can, learn all the deeper stuff. And that takes a lot of time, but it's not mind benders. You know what I mean? Like it takes time and patience, but once you get through that initial wall, then you're good.
Okay.
And I can teach stage one. I can't teach stage two. I don't have a deep enough knowledge. I'm not pretending that I'm an economist or anything. I've only known this for a few months, February, June, whatever, 4 or 5 months now. But I'm really good at teaching stage one of getting it through the initial mind benders. So I don't have a deep enough knowledge, and I can't handle debate. I can't handle skepticism. If someone throws, well, what about the Federal Reserve raising interest? I don't understand. I don't know. Okay. So I want to ask you and your viewers, please, while we're talking, I really hope that you can have an open mind. I know you will. And I want you to ask questions. I want you to interrupt me. I want this to be tailored to, your state of mind. But when we're done, you should be absolutely as skeptical as you need to be. You should do your homework and you should decide the truth for yourself. So that's like sort of the ground rules. I can't handle someone who's confident in the wrong thing and be able to refute that.
Sure.
So, okay. So you're going to quickly learn what I have to teach you. And there are plenty of people, particularly lots all over Real Progressives, Jeff Ginter, and many people in Real Progressives and many other places, and MMT economists that they are in touch with would all be happy to talk with you, especially as someone that reaches so many. So
who is the MMT economist? Is it?
Oh, there's plenty. I mean,
bunch of them?
Bernie Sanders, Stephanie Kelton was Bernie Sanders' economic advisor for his campaign. She was an advisor. She's probably the first one you should.
Okay.
Stephanie Kelton. And actually, I'll tell you, the first video you should probably watch is called Angry Birds and Deficits by Stephanie Kelton. It's just an hour-long talk, sort of on the concepts that we're about to talk about.
Okay.
But, she's more elegant and all that. But there's plenty. There's tons. I can give you some notes if you want to put them in the,
Okay.
the show notes. Okay, so I want to start off with two scenarios, okay? Two scenarios. And trust me, this is all going to come together. But we're going to start with two scenarios. First, I want you to pretend that you're the father of twins, and it's almost their birthday, all right? You go to them, you ask them, what do you want for your birthday? One of them tells you that they want a big screen TV. The other one tells you that they want a video game system. Neither of it's a surprise. They've been wanting this for years. They're passionate about it. You know it's going to make them happy. So you go to the store, you look around, you do some comparisons, and you find out, unfortunately, you can only afford just one. So you go to your kids and you say, I'm really sorry, but our family budget, the amount of money that we have, I will not allow me to buy both of you a present. So I can only afford to buy one of you a present. You have to share it. I'm not trying to be mean, but I can only afford to buy one of you. So this is what we're going to do. You have to convince me which one I should buy a present for. You have to do analysis and research. You have to give me the pros and cons. You have to tell me why you're so passionate. You have to tell me why, given our family budget, given how much money we have, convince me that you are the one that should get the money and not your brother. And so they spend a lot of time doing this. They spend a lot of time on this research. They consult with people. They do their own research in libraries, whatever it is, and with the family budget. And they spend a lot of time. And they hand in a paper to their father of all this analysis. And the paper, the father reads the papers and decides, for whatever reason, that the one about the big screen TV is better. And so he says, I'm buying a big screen TV. This is great. good job. You did a good job too, but it just, this was better. This is what I'm deciding. So he buys his big screen TV. You have to share it, but I'm buying it for you. I'm sorry I can't buy it for you. We just can't afford it. And now, it's upsetting. It's upsetting because you know how passionate he is. You know how much he wants it. You know how hard he's been, yearning for it. Mm-hmm. So it's upsetting. Okay, so done. Scenario number 2, same exact thing. But this time, you are a father of twins and you are a multi-millionaire. Okay? Same exact thing. You have 2 twins. It's almost their birthday. You ask them and you say, what do you want for your birthday? One of them tells you a big screen TV. One of them tells you a video game system. You know that this is what they wanted for, forever. So it's no surprise. You go to the store, you look around, you do some comparisons, and you realize you can only afford just one. With the money that you have and the budget that you have, you can only afford just one. So you go to your kids and you tell them, I'm really sorry, but I can only afford just one. We only have so much money. We have our budget and so on. And he tells his children, you have to convince me of which one of you deserves this present. And so they spend all this time doing their research, all the same stuff, all of this effort, all this time. And obviously it's competitive. There's going to be some resentment. There's going to be maybe even some backstabbing, right? And they give you the research paper. And they read the research. The father reads the research papers and he decides the big screen TV is way better. Not way better. It's better. He chooses that one. Excuse me, I got to mute a conversation here. I don't want to see this. So he buys the big screen TV and he says, you did a great job. You have to share it. I'm not unreasonable, but unfortunately, I can only afford this. Unfortunately, you did a good job, but I can't afford the video game system this year. And it's upsetting because you know how much they wanted the video game system. On and on and on. And that's completely insane, right? You are a multi-millionaire. You can afford to buy both of your children presents. You can afford to buy anything and everything that you want. But even more than that, why would you even bring up the topic of money? Why would you even bring up the topic of affordability? And even more than that, why would you make your children spin their wheels and take all of this time to do all of this research for something that doesn't even matter? Okay? And even more than that, why would you pit your children together when there's no reason to do so? Okay? So that's just a teaser. Now we're going to go on. Bring that up to the United States. So that was the end of that scenario, the 2 scenarios. Now I want to bring this to the United States. And I think I said this in some social media stuff to you, that it's travesty that the United States chooses endless war, excessive military, and tax breaks for millionaires. It's a travesty. It's obscene. It is a travesty that the United States chooses to not give us Medicare for all and free college and living wage and to fix our poisoned water. It's terrible. But the even bigger travesty is that the American people have been tricked into thinking that we only have enough money for one or the other, that we have to choose, and that we spend most of our time analyzing and justifying and researching why we should be able to afford this, when the United States can easily afford to give us all of it. They can keep their endless war. They can keep, temporarily, this is not a good thing, but it shouldn't be a prerequisite to end endless war and to reduce the military because it's ridiculous, and to reduce taxes to raise taxes on the wealthy, to get rid of immoral income inequality. That should not be a prerequisite to getting what we want. Okay. So I'm glad you brought up a pony before. So next section here is, I'll stop there if you want to say anything, but this is obviously a teaser.
Sure.
This is a teaser for what we're about to go into, but if you want to say something before I go on.
Yeah, I guess, some of my questions, I feel like there's going to be some sort of bigger reveal, because right now I'm still in the, so the United States government is like the millionaire in the scenario who has the money for all of this stuff. My only concern, I mean, the question that you asked, why would the dad pit the two sons against each other? Well, that's obvious. They want to keep us divided. I mean, I talk about that a lot on this show. They want to keep us distracted and divided.
Those two sides are not exactly what you think. Those two sides are the powerful and the powerless. It's not, black and white people separating them with racism or anything like that. It's the powerful. But go on.
Sure, it is a class war. It's the 1%ers versus everybody else. The tactics that the 1%ers use to keep the 99% divided is race and red state, blue state, and whatever else they can find, which is why that's what I heard, at least with I need to keep my two sons fighting with each other so they don't realize that dad could take care of everything that they want. So I'm going to get them to waste all this time on these two bullshit proposals over which is better.
Right.
So that all makes sense to me.
Yeah. So the money thing there's a bigger picture than money. So we'll get into that. Okay. So hopefully by the end of the discussion, you're going to understand really why all of this is true. So the Pony Act of 2008, the Pony for All Act of 2018. So the Pony for All Act for 2018. So I want to take a ridiculous scenario and take it very seriously just for a few minutes. So Hillary Clinton in her book, Bernie Sanders, you want to give everybody a pony. That's so nice. Everybody would love a pony, but how are you going to pay for it? And I want to say that actually, not exaggerating, not silly, it is truly possible for every American to get a literal, actual biological pony. It is possible. Okay? It's ridiculous that we want to do that, but it is genuinely possible that we could do that. So I have the hypothetical. I have great news that our government is suddenly not corrupt. They have all the money, and that money is no object. And Trump has committed that he's going to sign the Pony for All Act of 2018 tomorrow. Okay, so he does, and that's great. Great surprise. And it allocates this law allocates $10 billion, and it requires by next week on Thursday that everyone in the country gets access to a free pony. Okay? So $10 billion, the law is signed in, the bill is signed into law. $10 billion floods into the economy for the purpose of enacting this law that everyone in the country gets a pony for free. Mm-hmm. And it's got to happen by next Thursday, a week from next week Thursday. And my question to you, and with all my questions, I'm totally willing to rescue you, but I just want to throw it out there. What happens? $10 billion floods the economy to enact the Pony for All Act of 2018. Next week on Thursday, every single American gets access to a free pony. What happens?
Well, I guess all of the ancillary pony businesses would see an uptick, right? The feeding, the grooming, the veterinarians, the blacksmiths, the pony,
blacksmiths, yeah,
saddles, whatever, all that stuff. You're going to need a gate for your pony. Now everybody has to go buy a gate for their pony, and they need to buy a feeding thing, and they need to clean up all of the pony shit. And so now there's all of that business, right?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then how is everybody going to continue to feed this pony now that they have one? Because the feeding and the veterinary bills over the life of a pony, actually now, you might be like, wow, I didn't want this pony because now I have to pay all these things for it.
You're not required to have one. You're just legally, you have the access to one.
Access to one. Okay.
Yeah. So, and actually, if everyone in the whole country has a pony, then what happens when it dies? That clearly has to be a big issue.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you're on your way, but I'm asking you, can everyone by next week on Thursday have a pony?
I would say no, there's not enough ponies out there.
Ding. So let's say roughly, I have no idea, but let's say there's 500,000 ponies in the country. There are 320 million, I think, around 320 million people in the country. There is no way that in 1 week that we can get everybody a pony. But $10 billion has flooded the economy to make this possible. and there are 500,000 ponies and 320 million people that want them. So what's going to happen? And again, I'll rescue you if you want me to just say.
Yeah, there would be fights, there would be battles, there would be political things, there would be all that shit.
And the prices of each pony
goes way up.
Would skyrocket.
Right.
That is hyperinflation. That's inflation. Okay? So as you just said, there's not enough real resources, ponies, fences, veterinarians, food, stores that sell this stuff and all this, disposing of dead ponies. We got to come up with something for that. There's not enough real resources to handle this.
Right.
Okay? But again, I told you in the beginning that although it's completely ridiculous to want this, that it is genuinely possible to happen, to make this happen. So what is required to actually make this happen? So I'll throw it out to you, and then I can take it if you want.
Yeah, I guess you would have to put in place a however timeline plan to get 320 million ponies, to get the veterinary infrastructure, to get the food infrastructure, to get distribution. Right. Get the trucks. Where's the pony meal food going to come from? Where's it grown? Where's it processed? How's it distributed? All that stuff. So we'd then go
educating people to be able to, we're going to need a lot more breeders and veterinarians and so on.
Yeah. So then we need all those people. We need 1 million more blacksmiths. We need all this stuff. So then we need to put a 5-year plan in place, let's say, to get the pony infrastructure in place so that every 320 million ponies can happen.
Exactly. So you said everything when I first asked you what's going to happen until next week, and you said all of these things, the life cycle, birth to death. Mommies and daddies are going to have to do their thing over and over and over and over again. So I would have said 10 years, but 5 years is perfectly reasonable, that some serious amount of time is going to be necessary to make all of this happen. And the core of it is the mommy and daddy ponies need to do their thing, and that's going to take gestation for whatever to reach 320 million. So you are exactly right. So the entire life cycle needs to be considered, and given, I'll say 10 years, given 10 years, flooding $10 billion into the economy is reasonable. Okay? It's reasonable. It's not reasonable in 1 week. It's reasonable in 5 or 10 years. Okay? Because all the real resources, our productive capacity can handle it.
Right.
Our productive capacity can handle it. Our real resources can handle it.
Physical production of things. There's physical things that need to be made. Food, medical supply, veterinary supplies, all this are physical things that need to be produced and distributed and sold and all that stuff.
Right. Physical things and labor.
Yep. And
the most important, not the most important one, the most unusual one is time. A real resource is time. So that's what's most important. The money doesn't matter. If you flood more money into the economy than our productive capacity can handle, that's bad. That causes inflation. If you pour money into our economy with consideration of real resources, in consideration of our real resources, in consideration of our productive capacity, no problem at all. Everyone in the country can get an actual pony. Okay? So that's it. That's it for the pony thing. So you get it. Real resources is what's important. Money's not important. Okay, let's switch subjects. I'll stop there and see if you have any comments before I switch, if you want.
I guess at this point, everything is sort of, that simplistic hypothetical makes sense to me. The two children, the rich dad and the middle class dad, and with the twins, that makes sense to me. And this everybody, 320 million ponies, how do we actually do that? Even though we have plenty of money, how do we actually do that? All of that makes sense to me.
Okay, good. All right, good. All right, so next subject, and this is all going to come together, I promise. You have a dollar bill in your pocket, actual dollar bill. Where did that dollar bill come from? And I'm asking you to answer.
Let's say it came from change when I bought something at the store using a 5. Okay.
And where did that come from? Where did that, you got it from somewhere?
Sure, that 5, one of the Make Gotham Great Again shirts that I sold after one of my shows on the road with Blanc Pacon this past week. The last night, I took one of the $20 bills from this Make Gotham Great Again shirt that somebody bought at the show in Atlanta, and they gave me that. And that's...
All right, so merchandise. You also have your patrons.
Yep.
So merchandise and patrons is probably
ad
a
revenue.
significant amount of it.
Yep.
Okay.
And then money
so that's
from
where
the shows and all that stuff. Okay.
Okay. So that's where you got your dollar from. But that's not where the dollar truly came from. Where did they get the dollar from? Where did your patrons get the dollar from? Where did the person who bought your shirt get the dollar from?
Right. They got it from wherever they work, whatever jobs they have. And that's
okay. And I'm asking you to keep going and keep going until we reach the final thing. Where did that dollar come from?
Right. So they work from a company that sells a bigger thing, and they got money for that. And then, I guess this is where your brain starts to get caught in a loop.
Well, I mean, do you have a guess? I can say.
I mean, I guess if you it came from the Federal Reserve, or it was printed where.
Thank you. All right. So is that the final answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Federal Reserve. You're right. It comes from the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve makes the money, but who instructs the Federal Reserve to make that money? The
Illuminati. No.
That's your skepticism after we're done.
The thing about the Federal Reserve, what I know about it, it seems like it's sort of its own thing, sort of a rogue institution.
Okay, well,
but let's say
that's the skepticism, but that's not what I'm teaching you. That's not as I understand it. So I'm asking you.
All right, so just from a non-conspiratorial standpoint, the United States government instructs the Federal Reserve.
That's right. So the Federal Reserve is instructed by the Treasury. The Treasury is instructed by a new law, and the law was created by our Congress,
right?
The legislative branch. It comes from the Congress. The Congress is the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8 gives the Congress the monopoly power of creating the currency. So they write a law, they put a number in it, $10 billion for ponies. That law is passed in, that bill is passed into law. Then that instructs the Treasury, instructs the Federal Reserve, goes to the state reserves, goes to the actual banks, goes to the companies that are required to make that law possible. Okay? I know that's high speed, but that is what it is. Ultimately, it's the Congress. Okay? So the Congress makes the dollar. And they can, so they're the monopoly currency issuer. They're the only ones in the world that can make the currency. Not me, not you, not companies, not states, not municipalities, not other countries, not China, not Russia. Everybody else except for the United States Congress is a currency user of the United States dollar. Everyone. So everyone except for the Congress is in exactly the same position. China is no different than me or you, aside from just the amount. Okay? So currency user, currency issuer. Monopoly currency issuer. And creating the dollar is a child's game. It is no different than drawing a $1 bill on a piece of construction paper. It is no different than drawing a $1 trillion bill on a piece of construction paper. A child can do it whenever they want, how much they want, however much they want, and for whatever they want. And so can the Congress. They should do it responsibly, as we discussed in the pony thing. It is foolish to create infinite money, but they can. They can create infinite money. So it is a game, it's a social construct, and it's a choice. Money is a game. Money is a social construct. It is not backed by gold. It used to be backed by gold, but in August of 1971, it stopped being backed by gold.
Thanks to Nixon.
Thanks to Nixon. A lot of the textbooks for economists were written before that. So a lot of the economists are still learning what is no longer true. They're still learning on the gold standard, some of them. So as much as they can create the dollar as much as they want, whenever they want, for whatever they want. So they're the monopoly currency issuer. Okay, so if they can create as much, whenever, for whatever, the United States dollar, do they need any income? If you can draw a $1 trillion bill on a piece of construction paper and that is legal tender, and you're the only one that's allowed to do so, would you need the Graham dollar as income? to be able to buy something?
No.
Okay. So the federal government does not, as a currency, as a monopoly currency issuer, does not need any income. You said no. Just confirming, correct? Yes, correct. Okay. So it makes no sense
Except there's
for
taxes.
the federal. You're jumping ahead here.
I'm sorry.
All right. So it makes no sense for someone that can create the dollar as much as they want, whenever they want, for whatever they want, to have any income. So why then do they collect taxes? And why do they borrow? So that's my next question to you.
Man, this is, I see where we're getting into the mind bendingness of this.
I know. But again, I really want to emphasize, this is only mind bending because of how badly we have been miseducated our entire lives.
Right.
If we started off this way in elementary school, this would be a no-brainer.
Yeah, we'd all go, there's no reason for taxes, which is this wasn't an oversight that we were all that this was missed by our textbooks, because they don't want everybody rising up going, wait a minute, you don't need to take $1 from my paycheck.
Well, taxes are extremely important, which we'll get into in a minute.
Okay, so then I can't find an answer to your questions.
Okay, so China is just like anybody else. They're just like individuals and companies and municipalities and states. They have a lot of money. They have whatever, $5 trillion, but the United States can draw $5 trillion on a piece of paper tomorrow if they wanted to. So do they need to borrow money from China when they are the only ones that can create the money and they can create as much as they want, as so on? Do they need to borrow money from China? Do they need to borrow money from Russia? Obviously, the answer is no. The answer is no. And it's just as silly as saying the Philadelphia Phillies. I was listening to a game years ago, and there was like 21-2 or something. And so the Philadelphia Phillies call up the Pittsburgh Pirates and say, listen, we need to borrow some points. We got to put some points. It's a really high-scoring game. It's stupid. It makes no sense. Those points are a game, or a social construct, or a decision. There's not a bucket of points in the Philadelphia Phillies back office. So it's very similar to the Congress creates its own money. So clearly we don't need to get money from anybody else, whether it's a country or a person or a company or a state. So the next.
Yeah. So why do we have a national deficit? Why are we collecting all this stuff? This is really.
Right. So I can't really address the borrowing in depth. I can't really address the debt in depth. But what I can address is, so since we don't need the federal government, and we're only talking about the federal government, since the federal government can make its own money, doesn't need any income, then why does it collect taxes? And I think you've made it clear that you're not sure at the moment, and they're very important.
My supposition would just be, what I always go to with this government is some form of control and keeping people down and keeping people in line.
That's not so far off. The ideal is keeping people down is not necessarily true. They could use it for that reason, but the pure reason is not to keep people down. But it absolutely, control is a big part of it. So this is the phrase that I want you and your viewers to remember. If you remember nothing else from this whole talk, this is what I want you to remember, and that is this phrase: federal taxes do not fund federal spending. Federal spending funds federal taxes.
Okay, federal taxes don't.
Federal taxes do not fund federal spending. Federal spending funds federal taxes. If you remember nothing else in this whole conversation, that's what I wish that you would remember. That one phrase.
Fed spending funds federal taxes.
Yes. So just like we said, when the federal government spends, that is exactly the same as the federal government creates the dollar. They choose to spend $10 billion for the pony bill, and that by definition means that they create $10 billion. So you would think, I need income before I can spend. And that's true for everyone in the country except the federal government. They have to spend before they can tax. So we'll get into that. So taxes are very important, but not because, actually I'll stop. If you want to say something, I ask a question.
So
now we're getting into heavy duty stuff.
Now we're getting into the heavy duty stuff. So I want to, let's end part 1 on this. Federal taxes do not fund federal spending. Federal spending funds federal taxes. So everybody watching at home, watch the second part of this video where we're going to go into the details of that. This first part, we went into the very simple explanations with the twins and the rich dad and the regular dad
Ponies.
and the ponies, and the mind-bending thing that if Congress is the one creating currency, they don't need any money. So now all of these questions are flying out of my head, which I'm sure the viewers are like, well, what the
all
fuck?
These blobs of knowledge with no connections between any of them.
Whoa, why are they taxing us? Why is there a deficit? Why is there all of this stuff? And we're going to get to all of that, you guys, with Jeff from Citizens Media TV in part 2. So please watch that.